in celebrating your 4th of July, or perhaps you're like me, you love red, white, and blue, and you're very patriotic. You have many friends and family members who have been in the military and served, and you're most proud of the United States and your freedom. These are some DIYs that I keep out year-round, primitives, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to make them. To make the primitive drum, we are going to need a few supplies, and this is one of my favorites. This is a do-it-yourself 4th of July miniature drum. You can use this for Veterans Day, Memorial Day, or your everyday red, white, and blue decor. Some people call this Americana, military. I have a whole room decorated in red, white, and blue. Anything USA in red, white, and blue. Right here we have a paper mache box. You can get these from Dollar Tree. This is a small one, so this is going to be a really small drum, but it's just the right size. If you don't have that, perhaps you could use one of these buckets we get from Dollar Tree or with a gift. And if you have these containers left over, they are the perfect size. They're actually a little taller, and they are the same diameter. But what's interesting about this container is you would have enough space that if you have these small flags that you wish to adorn yours with and embellish it, it will fit, and you will not have to do much, if any, cutting down. I'm going to use my paints of choice. Since I'm going red, white, and blue, I, of course, have red and blue. And then as far as the other pieces you'll need some thumbtacks. These are the velvet push pins, so they have enough room there that poking out of the velvet looks fine. You can get the khaki or this blue at Dollar Tree, or just a regular gold thumbtack is what I commonly use. I just happen to have these. I printed off the 1776 in USA that I'm going to transfer on here, and as we go along, you can embellish and adorn yours the way that you like. Now I have some fabrics here, but this fabric is the one that I'm going to use for the top. You could use muslin or Isenberg. This one happens to be cotton, and that's what I'm going with. So let me clear this off, and we're going to start making our little miniature tabletop drum. The first thing I want to do is mix up my paint, and I'm doing this with the chalks to show you that you can accomplish the blue you want without having to go out and buy more of a color, and that way you can jump right in and start making your drum and not being held back. Easier to just paint it all. What's cool about the way I'm making this is technically, if you wanted to, you could always repurpose this, reuse it, disassemble it, and use this. Also, that this bottom part here is going to be in the Napa red. That's what I'm going to use on it. So at this point, I'm just going to take my blue and I'm going to take a little black to deepen it. This is an okay color too, just like it is. I like it as well. And it doesn't take a lot of the color at all, because you only need a spot of black to deepen this. It's just a small amount, and that's all I'm doing. And make sure it's good mixed up before you start applying it. That way you don't have streaks back and forth. And you see how dark that is, just that small amount. It'll take 2 shakes to get it on here and have it done. And because it's the chalk paint, it's going to dry real fast. So there you go. Just about got it completely painted. Just these little boxes, they're real small. This one's like a 4-inch, and it's 3 inches tall that I know of. So there you go. And I do massage it in because the paper mache drinks your paint really fast. As you can see, you were with me when I put it on there. Just that quick, it'll drink it up. And the reason why you want to paint your paper mache boxes really fast and don't overdo it and let them dry in between is because they are made out of paper. That paint is wet, and if you keep slapping it on there and get it way too wet before it can soak it up and dry, your paper mache box could potentially be compromised and start coming apart And then you would have to use you some Mod Podge and glue it back down to get it all back like you had it. So we'll let that dry and make sure that's going to be the color that I desire, which it's looking like it is. When you want to get something painted, you just got to get with it. That way you can get to the fun part, and that's decorating it. Now I will do the bottom of this, because if it's ever sitting about and turned around, they'll see the bottom. That way it's finished. You feel a completeness. Some people cannot go without painting all sides. It drives them nuts. Their OCD kicks in. It really messes with them bad. So just go ahead and paint it. No more than it takes. It's just a small amount. So your little paper mache can make a small drum. You can turn this into a lamp, a light. You could use this as a height pillar, you know, and just put things up as a riser. And that way it's already decorated. It looks beautiful. That's why I love them, because they have multi-purposes. And, of course, they're beautiful just sitting about to look at. So this mini one, you could do one even smaller. Wouldn't that be adorable? Especially if you do like the doll houses and stuff. You could make one real quick. Use it as a Christmas ornament. Put a hanger on the top. There's so many things you can do. Okay, so we now have our drum painted. As an FYI, the Americana paints are designed for primitives and Americana folk art type things, that old-fashioned look. And the uniform blue is commonly what makes this deep navy black color. So just to bear that in mind, if you're just looking to be buying the color and it's already ready. And then the Napa Red gives you this deep rustic color that I love. This is my favorite when it comes to the red, white, and blue, the deeper, darker colors. The bright ones are beautiful too, but to make it look old-fashioned, I really like these deeper colors. Alright, now I am wanting about an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch all the way around. And I just lay my box there. And this fabric, I can see real easy that it's 3.5 rows, technically 4 rows. So I can just go 4 rows on this side and mark it. And that's going to put me exactly where I need as far as kind of sharing it all the way around. And I've marked it right here so that I can show you how I come up with that. And then I just follow that pattern, because I'm going to be cutting this into a round, and so it's just easier to go ahead and cut it. I happen to cut these with my crimping shears, but regular shears would be just fine. That way, if it does some raveling, gives it a naturalness to it. And all I will do now is just take and lay it around, and then I'll just take my corners off and make it more round like. And a lot of times it's just so much easier to fold it and just fold it. And I can real easily just take all of my corners off and make it more round. I just kind of go around so it's not so square. Give it that cut, and then I can fold it again and make it even more round. So I'm going to take and put some tea dye on here. I have a big jug made of it, and it's going to take such a small amount. Just drizzle some in this bowl and put my fabric in there. And that's simple enough. This will be dry in just a jiffy. So I'll squeeze out the excess, and I'll put that difference back in my jug if I need to, or I'll put it in my coffee crunch bottle and just spread this out. And it won't take long for this to dry. So during that time, I can, like I said, wax this and make it more smooth so it's not gritty and textured. Lay that there. Now, my fabric is all dry, and it's got that natural worn look to it. I love it. And before we do anything further after painting this, I'm going ahead and put my top on there because we're going to be putting our numbers on here, and then also the USA I want to put around here. We're also going to be adding our thumbtacks and our string. So the next thing I want to do is I want to prepare my letters for the top of this. Now I already know that I need to pretty much mark it for that center area, and I've already kind of sized it up, and I know that this is a little bit too long. I'm going to have to bring these numbers closer together. So now I've got the numbers traced on top, and I'm going to just use a paint marker to go over those. They look so good that you could technically use any of your like mega gel pens, and then you can heat set it, but then that way I can just paint it on. Now my USA, because in my mind I really want to keep these separated and put a dot in between, and I'll show you that. So I've kind of scrap cut it so that I can stick it on there and trace them, and that way it'll be easy to get this sticky adhesive out of here. I can just easily, like I said, I've already weeded it for the most part to make it easier for me to get these out, and that way I can put them onto my box and trace them. I'll just make it super easy because these are so thin they will rip. Now remember, your paint job does not have to be perfect because this is primitive, and that is a bonus when you're doing these, because now you're just making them really prim. I love the paint markers. It makes my crafting such a breeze and a pleasure to do, because you can really just knock this out really quick. Stress-free painting. I love it. Just fill it in. Main thing with these, make sure that you have your felt flooded on your markers when you go to using them, so that you don't get this jagged left out area. Then that way you can just go right along there, clean it up, and make sure that if you pick up any lint that you can easily take that off before you store your marker. If it builds up, of course, you want to make sure you clean it off. Make sure I get the bottom of that. And it doesn't hurt to heat set these when they dry, and that keeps them from running too. You can also put a little bit of Mod Podge on there if you wanted to. You could do it like on the underneath, but I think this will be just fine. Let that dry. And then on these, I probably will do these in a gold ink, just so they'll really show up and make it so much easier. It's a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed doing this one. Once I get them stuck where I want to, the main thing is to get this paper off. They'll make them a lot easier to deal with. I'm just gonna like put them on there, because most of the time you're going to be seeing that. So I'm going to put that like that. And remember, you don't want them perfect, so don't be too particular unless that's just your style and it's really what you want to do. And with these, another thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to raise this up enough to detach the A from the S, and then the S will have its own tab, and that way they stay perfectly distanced apart, as they're already been printed that way. Now I can do those with my paint marker. This is how I did my USA, and I put these dots here, and you could really truly do all kinds of different things on this. Once again, you could add a flag back here. That would look so gorgeous. And that's what we have so far. Now, this is the 1776. It's going to go atop, and I've made sure that when I'm doing that I'm my little 1/2 inch hanging over, and that's going to give just enough appearance of that USA. It's exactly what I'm going for. And even though that's a little bit brighter right now, I will age this up a little bit and give it that worn look once I get everything situated. You can really truly make this in about an hour as long as your paint's drying pretty quick and you got everything cut out for like your numbers or whatever you may be embellishing with yours, different wordage or a flag. I would have really liked to put a flag on mine, but unfortunately I don't have anything small enough, and if I do fabric, well, it's just such a tiny area there. I don't think it would do me much good, but the larger ones, it looks fantastic on. So I decided to make a change. I'm going to put me a band around this upper top and trim the fabric back more. I really truly want to look more authentic, like a true drum for our DIY. For this primitive look, I'm going to take and paint this cardboard that came from a spool, and you can do the same thing. You could also top this with jute twine. You could use ribbon, rope, whichever you like. And I'm going to use my Napa Red to paint it up so I can cut it. Now, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of Mod Podge to keep my placement of my fabric. That way I can trim it really close. And that will just lay it down so that it doesn't slide around. Also around the edges, so I can trim it close and then I can put my piece on it. And then that way I don't have any of my fabric shifting or going anywhere that I don't need it to go. Make sure I can show up my letters or my numbers. So around the edge here, I'm definitely going to make sure that I put some Mod Podge to hold my fabric around this edging, because I'm going to be trimming it really, really close. And then that way anything extra will be cut off. And then I'm going to be kind of aging this up after I get all that situated. And I want that, I don't mind it having that little bit of gathering. I think it'll give it that true look, authentic look. But all this extra fabric will not be needed. And I don't want it super tight. I want it to have a little bit of leisure to it. And I haven't heat set this, but I'm just going to throw a little bit of Mod Podge on those letters. Got the Mod Podge underneath, which is going to help it too. And using Mod Podge for its true and intended purpose, which is a sealer. Yes, I'm liking that. It's looking much, much better. Now it's going in a direction that's pleasing to me. So I'll give that a few minutes to dry, and then I'll trim off the difference. I got my bands painted, and of course I need just a small section of this second one. But this is going to be my band that I'm going to glue around here. And as you see, I need that extra taken off. And I'm just going to use hot glue gun. But I'm going to make sure that, like my USA, and I've got my number across there, and it's kind of crooked. I mean, it's almost too late to move this Mod Podge, but that's the way it ended up, and we're going to run with it. I'm not going to sweat that at all. Even though the 176 is there and the US is here, it's offset just a little bit. So that was me moving it and shifting it and so forth. It'll be just fine. And now I can just go around here and trim off this difference before I glue that band on. Okay, that should take care of that. Try it now. I've got some glue there now. If we want to, we can trim more off of that band, but I am not overly worried about it. It is prim, and I'm going to go light with the glue. Make sure you lay it down, don't have it chunked up, because of the little pins that's going to go in here. It'll be a whole lot harder to get them pressed in if you got that glue there, and you might tear the rest of your stuff up just trying to get it on there. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Got that glued about there. Now I just need to put a little piece back here in this section. Now I want to age this yellow up. It's a little too intense. And I have some nutmeg with some white here. I'm just barely going to touch in that on the outer part where I've got water mixed in with it. And I'm going to see if I can't maybe lighten this up a little bit. That's underneath there, so I'm not worried about that. As you can see, I'm just kind of going over it. I'm not trying to be like particular. Just kind of give it some rubbed look to it. I don't want to use black or brown. It can be a bit much at times. And then that way it has just that little hint of grayish whitening to it. And at this point, my brush is pretty much dry. I'm just going back and touching at some of that. Got my push pins, and the kind of way you want to do this, like I said, this is like 12. You're going to have one here, one up here, and one down here. So you can kind of divide the difference and when you're looking at it. And you do want it like midways of your piece there. So like that cord is going to go in between that USA or US, the letters U and S. So you want to kind of divide the difference. And just press that in. And when you push this in, you want to kind of hold off a little bit because the cord's got to go around it. So if I got one there, then I need one up here. And I don't need too many in there. Kind of has to be angled. And these you can kind of go around and circle. That's looking so cute right there. I'm going to put one down here. It's going through all those boards. So I'm doing it like that because they're really sharp. They're not giving me too much of a struggle. So dividing the difference here. And if you get them too far out, you can just take them out and put them back in. And as you can see, I'm getting another one probably right here. Now when I look down on this, you can see there's 4 and then there's 4. And there's like corners. So if you look at it like that and you look down on it, you see those push pins. And I'm just going to take the jute twine. And this is the really narrow. So leave a tail on it because you'll need to tie to it. And so maybe I'll leave my tail out here. And you'll just bring it up a little bit so you can run your cord. You can run the cord around it. Then when you do this one, you'll go the opposite way. So push your pin back in, pull this one out a bit. And since I need this and going in that direction, I can wrap it around it. I'll push my pin back down. I pull this one up and I go around it the opposite way and bring it down here. Push that one in, pull this one out, bring it around, and then this one, I'll go the opposite way, and then this one, pull it out and go this way, push it back, and almost around, pretty quick. And that one, see the little thing come off, the little cushion, not a problem. I'll glue it back on. And I'll come around it. So now you can actually see what it looks like back there. Push that down, pull this one out, come around it, and now I can tie to this one. So what do you think so far? Are you loving it? I am super loving it. That yellow still looks bright on your screen, but honestly, trust me, it is got the worn look. It looks great. Alright, now we got our drum made, we need to make our drumsticks. Now you can easily make your drumsticks by gluing a bead onto a wooden skew like you would make shish kebabs with. I have these left over from honeysuckers, and they already have the bead on them, and the sucker's generally up here and you can kind of see it stained. But these are excellent, and if you want to make them match and dress them up, you can. You could glue them together and put them with the drum. It really depends on what you want to do. And these look really nice together, especially displayed. But that's an easy way to fix your drumsticks. You can fancy these up and put some jute twine on them and paint them and really make them match. You can do the red, white, and blue, which that'd be super easy to do. Since I do have a dirty brush, I can give them a little bit of color here. Just dry brushing. See how that color looks on them. Just give them some look to them. Do the ball. Give them that rubbed look. Now this is looking cute. I couldn't get my blue marker to work, but the red one is. And this is looking really cool. I like this. I like this a lot. Give it that firecracker kind of look. Especially that red is just the perfect red for this task. I am very pleased. You can't beat the Sharpie paint markers anyway. They have a blastful color. So that looks even more matching with the drum. So all in all, we have our gorgeous drum set here. I'm super pleased. So showing that off, once again, we have our 1776, our USA, our do-it-yourself primitive drum that can represent the 4th of July, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, red, white, and blue, independence, and of course our primitive decor. More than one thing for that task. And where my blue was running out on that marker and adding that red, look how perfect that is. It just aged it up just right. So now we have our drum set. And you can always take and put these little sticks like underneath if you wanted to. Be careful doing it. Always crossing them makes it look really neat. And have them out the side. You could even cut those sticks down, which is probably what I should do, because they're kind of long. But then you have your drumsticks right there together. This looks better if you were able to see it. It's a nicer view. And you could prop it up like that, any way you wanted to do it. So here we are, a close-up. So you can see how cute that's looking, just sitting there on its side. Nicely propped with its little drumsticks. Super cool. And then if it's sitting like this, you can really get a look at it. And how neat they look just sitting there. Now we got paint on the mat. It just looks grand. I am just super, super tickled with it. And I know you'll enjoy making this. Independence Day, 4th of July. Primitive DIY. Let's make a primitive flag. This one is made out of wine corks, but you could use pop bottle caps. You could use any kind of like wooden dowel or cutoffs. So don't limit yourself. You can even use the what you call the birch logs at Dollar Tree. You'll need your paint markers or red, white, and blue, and some little stars if you like. First thing we're going to do is we need 24 wine corks and or whatever you choose to use these on. Now what's neat about this is it's simple, easy, fast, and your paint markers and your glue gun, or you can use any type of adhesive glue. The main thing is your first 6 that you're going to have lined up. I'm going to do the first 6 in blue. Only do one side, because when this is sitting and you turn it around, it will actually be blue on red and white corks. So do the first side one at a time. Now your next 3 that you'll have up top here is going to be red. And then your next 3 here will be white. And those are going to go right beside that. Now this next line, of course, is going to be all red lined up. And then the next row will be all white. That way you'll have your blue flag, this first 6, red, white, red, and this last row is white. And you'll see as I go along and I get these done, but just so you know ahead of time, 24 is what you need. So you want a dependable marker or a paint marker, and you can also use your acrylic paints. And you're just going to do this, the top end here. Just going to do that whole end and paint it in. And if you don't like that color blue and you want to make it dark, then by all means, you can use your acrylics in different ones. So just to give you an idea, and you don't have to be like so perfect. You can just do the center, you can do the outer edge, and get that blue. And just move right along. It won't take you long to do 6 of the wine corks, or like I said, you could use a bottle cap, you could use wood cutoffs, wood turns, wooden dowels that you've got left over. It's real simple, and because you're really focusing on the front part of what's going to be seen, and then when these are glued together, they're going to make us a flag. And you could use this for your 4th of July DIY. You could use it for your red, white, and blue. I'm using this for my primitive decor, and I always keep that stuff out year round. I might show it off more or change up my displays for 4th of July, Veterans Day, Memorial Day. And I used to have my entire den decorated in red, white, and blue. Everything in there. So I still have all of that, and I use all of it. Still my favorite stuff. And some people call this the Americana fashion because of all the Americanas are commonly patriotic, red, white, and blue folk art type of decor. And it is really, truly come back into the main with people in popularity using those and doing those Americana crafts. So it's really caught back on. It used to be really, really popular in the 80s and 90s, and it faded out for a while, so people had brought it back. This still beloved. Okay, so I'm doing my last of the blue. And basically what it boils down to is you will have 9 that are red and 9 that are white. That's 18. And then when you add this 6 blue ones to it, you end up with 24 corks in total. So as you see how quick it took me to paint those, it doesn't take long at all. So since I've got those done, I want to focus on making sure I get all of my red and all of my white done. Now, as I was saying before, go ahead and do them as you got them laid out. Now, here's the trick. On this top 3 blue, you can do their opposite side red. You can knock that out real quick. Just keep them in order so that you don't glue them in the wrong order. That way, if it's looked at from behind or wherever you sit it on a table, you'll be able to see those same colors on the opposite side. So I'm going to turn those upright, give them a minute to dry, and it really don't matter how far over you go there. Just got to remember those top 3, and then the next 3 blue ones, you want to do their backside white. And then over here, when you get these red done, you can do them blue, and then when you do these white, you can do them blue. And that's how I'm keeping it in order so I don't get messed up, because it won't take much to get this confused really easy. If you do it in this order like I'm doing, you are sure to get it right without any problem. Now on these, you can duplicate these. Like you've got red on this end, can turn it over and do red on the opposite because they will fall in order. It's just that on this opposite shoulder here, these top 6, in order to, when you turn it around, so that you have the blue over here, your red and white coming down on the opposite side. So I'm going to do that real quick and get all of my white done too. So I haven't started on them yet. And then that way I'll have all my red and blue done. So as you can see, I've got these up here painted red and white on one side and blue on the opposite because it will be alternated. Same here. So if you really like the way those are looking right there, those first ones I did, that blue is deeper looking to me. So I'm going to actually slide those down. And this way you're organized and you're able to assemble them very quickly. So I'm just flipping those over because when you turn around, it will be the opposite. And you have your red, white, red, white. And these are still dry, but I can go ahead and start putting this first row together. And depending on if your glue will allow you to, some people have had trouble getting their wine corks glued together. I have not had that problem. I think the whole thing though is to get them like lined up and even Steven, you know, and that's why sometimes having them on a tray like this can really truly help you with that, and just keeps them kind of squared up and it makes it a whole lot less stress on you trying to aim. They are round, so you shouldn't have a problem putting them together. I've had no problem with hot glue. I've always used it on any of my wine cork projects. Someone who doesn't do wine corks or knows anyone who drinks wine and can get wine corks, that's not a problem. You could easily use wood turns on this, and or wooden dowels that's left over from your sponge brushes, bottle caps, anything to really make it look nice. The birch logs, the little mini birch logs from Dollar Tree, are perfect for this project. They are the right height and to give it some definition, and they would work great with this project. Now when I do those, you see how that one got loose because it's a tendency to want to turn your wine cork because you're holding to them. And so a lot of times I'll just heat that glue back up with my gun. And then I always put glue insurance on these once I get them all glued together. So I can get this first row done. And that's the idea, is don't put too much glue. Get your base going. Okay, now that makes the one row. And then I'll do my next one and so on and so forth. So now that I've got these rows glued together, I will take and glue the stacks on top of one another. And when you do that, you can give yourself, per se, some glue insurance. But I do a little bit at first. That way I can move swiftly and get them all lined up. Because remember, you're gluing round to round, and you want to stay in order and make sure they're all staying together in their order, because you can go in between there and add more glue. And we'll be putting some jute twine on these too, so just go through there, get your logs on. Now you have your flag going this way, and when you roll it over, you have your flag going on this side the correct way. And then this is an opportunity, if you need to, you can go in between there. And that's generally what I do, is I go along this side and I just put some glue in there. I call it my glue insurance. And give it a moment to dry in between, and then go to the other side and do the same. That way it gives it stability. And that way when you put your jute twine on it, it will stay put. This could use a little more right there. I just try to seal those crevices. And the jute twine camouflages it. That's looking really, really good. Very dapper. And up here, you know, where they've already been glued together, if you wanted to, you could go in between this side as well as this side. And sometimes you can just kind of look down in there and see if anything's going anywhere. These look pretty well glued, but it doesn't hurt to put that in there. And there we go. We've got that together. Alright, so what I'm going to do to age this up a little bit, it's just too bright for me. I'm going to take and add my grunge to my paint here. I've got like some nutmeg mixed with some white. Got a little bit of black there. And probably use my chippy brush. So the grunge recipe you can find in the link down below. And that way it's here on the channel. You can enjoy that. It makes a really, really neat grunge recipe. And you can use it literally on everything we do prim here. Everything. And it's designed to really, truly be able to use on fabric or your wood pieces, your jute twine, whichever you like. And I'm just using my chippy brush here. And that might be a little bit too much of the paint to give me my grunge. I'm also going to use some cinnamon to give it a little bit of a color too. And that just makes it look real nice. Let's see what we got here, my paints. Also, I picked me out some stars. And I'm going to use 2 stars. I have my one that's wood burnt cuts. And you can get these at Hobby Lobby. And then also the silver stars. And a lot of times you can get them at Hobby Lobby too. And I'm just going to glue one on top of the other. And I'm planning on placing it right about here. And I'm just going to kind of brush over it real quick. And then make sure I blot it. Because this is really what's going to be showing is the outer part. And then because it is the wine corks, and these are like the bulk kind, these were given to me. These were actually given to me by someone who had some craft plans and decided they weren't going to and changed their mind. Now I do want that color to stay like that because I'm going to wrap that jute twine around it. And this is just going to take all that brightness off of these corks. And so once again, you can take your paper towel and blot those. Just ages it out a little bit. With my star, it's the burnt, and it might look too new for this. So let's stain it up a little bit. And what I was wanting to do is kind of put that there. I'm just going to put a spot here and a spot there. It's still kind of damp, but... And then with this being metal, the metal dries real fast. It just cools off real quick with the glue gun. So sometimes it's hard to get the glue on there like you want. Get it switched around while it's still warm. Jute twine. And you could use rope with this, anything, and just go several winds around it. I always kind of leave a tail hanging out, so that when I go to wrap this, I've got one to come back and tie to. And just go around it several times. That's one of the short pieces. Whatever suits you. And to your heart's content. You can also take and put some muslin across these. And then wrap your jute twine. That looks good as well. Okay, that looks like the end of that. So we'll just go with it. Tie it on the side or up top, wherever. Cord. And I'm just going to leave it. Looks pretty good. And it just kind of boxes it up. It looks real, real neat. And you can always put like USA and different things. And when you flip it around, if you wanted to put a star back here, you could. What I might do is paint these stars on. And you can also do a ribbon bow. So let's do us a ribbon bow, and we can put it up top here, see how that looks. That adds more charm to it. I have my muslin here, and I'm going to take a piece of this and maybe stamp like USA or Freedom or Land of the Free, and make me a tag to put on my flag here. I think that will give it even more charm. And I just keep me a roll of muslin. It really comes in handy. And you can rough this up if you want to. Put a tattered edge on it, whichever you like. Alright, so I made my tag. I put Made in USA, and I put my name and date on one, my initials, and on the back of it I actually added the year, and I put my whole stamp in there. Now I haven't stained these up yet because I wanted to make sure I got everything on them that I wanted on them. So now I can either do my stain I got over here and let them get a little wet, and they don't have to be all the way, or I can use my distressed inks, and they work real well. I did think about maybe hitting this a little bit, you know, just kind of hitting it here and there, and just, you know, a little this, a little that. Now, that should do it on that. Won't be too much. Then you see what ink I got on my hands and rub that in. And then like these pieces I can take and just kind of crumble them up and let that stain get on them from where I had gotten it on my wine corks. Get my dirty hands rubbed on there. Perfection. The more you mess with it, the better it gets. So that looks pretty good. We got our tags made. And I'll just put that one behind this one. I can tie these on. Run that jute twine up through there. Give it all this charm. That's what I love about my primitives. The more you add these little embellishments, just a little this and that and the other. So that's looking pretty good. Got those tags there. They'll hang off that little side there. Now we need some fabric in there. I do have this one already made. This might be the ticket right here. It's got all the colors. Burlap, it's got the lace, muslin in it, blue, red, white, and blue. See which string, I don't guess it matters which string to tie it with. So I added just a few more pieces on here, burlap, and this little piece of blue right here. So the blue burlap and red burlap along with this little blue piece, so that it will really accentuate what's here. And this looks really much like a starburst messy bow, and it's going to work perfect for a flag. Do a small amount of glue, and I'm going to glue it up high because I do have my tag here, my Made in the USA tag, and actually I can kind of lay it across the front if I wanted to. And I may try to move my jute twine to where that tag is up at the top more. And just put a dab on it versus the logs per se, or the wine corks. And kind of cascade there and show off that firework looking messy bow. It's looking pretty dapper. Really, really dapper. And at this time I'm using this side, but I can always use this side too. So I hope you enjoyed making the 4th of July red, white, and blue flag for your everyday primitive decor. I really enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun. Let's make some torn fabric flowers. You could use cardboard as your center, or you can use like your wore out rusty mason jar lids. What really makes this primitive is to use branches as a stick for the stem of it. And then any fabric that you choose. I'm going to use my red, white, and blue for my Americana Patriotic do-it-yourself torn fabric ribboned flowers, and a little bit of polyfill or something to stuff it, maybe a leftover pillow or something of that nature. You're going to need your hot glue gun, and it's easy to make. These do-it-yourself primitive flowers, we are definitely going to use red, white, and blue. This will be my white. You could use muslin, or you can use your stars on your solids. These are the ones with off-white. They already look like they've been tie-dyed or tea-dyed. And the truth is, when you do tea-dye these type of fabrics, these stars are the only thing that's going to really change in color unless you go with a really, really deep tea or coffee stain. I'm going to use a mason jar lid. You can use cardboard or anything for your disc. To get started on these, we simply need to tear us off some fabric and decide then how big of a blossom you want. So be the ribbon fabric flowers. And a lot of times what I do is I will kind of just take my fabric and cut me out a section. And a lot of times, because of my quilting habits and things that I do, I try to go at least 5 inches over. And I know for me, if I relax my hand and put my thumb out, that right there is usually my 5-inch mark. And then that way, if I'm quilting, I can get 5 to 6 inch squares, depending on how far over I cut that. And that will be a section that I have. And then I can keep my fabrics neatly doffed. And here's a little tip for you. I put how much fabric I've got, and I use this stretchy sheet stuff. You can also use amazing tape. And you can use shrink wrap from out of the drawer and just cut you some pieces, and it will cling to itself, and that just kind of keeps everything corralled and neat for you. So let me get my fabric cut here and we'll get started. On this particular primitive flower, we are going to be doing blue on the outside. Just want to go about 1/2 inch or so, maybe 3/4. Snip it and then just rip it. And I'm going to start out with about 3 or 4 sections of this because it's going to be my outer ring of my ribbons to make the petals. And it just happens in a jiffy. I'll do the same thing to my red, just finding an area that looks pretty good. Just go ahead and get you some strips ripped. The red does real good. I don't know why, but it really tears easy. I was doing some smaller pieces a while ago, and I was shocked how fast I could tear that. Just barely pulling it. And then the white did pretty good too. And since these are a little longer, we'd already been cutting on this one. Used it on the last flower. That'll help get me started. Now, the way I'll do this one is I need this whole out perimeter in the blue. So I'm just going to put my glue there and go with it. And then I can real easily determine how long I want those petals. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to leave these in a loop. And then if I need more fabric, I have it. And all these on this outer perimeter. So there'll be 2 more rows, red and then the white. That's kind of long, so let me bring it in a tad. Remember, they don't have to be identical, but this is going to be your outer circle. And the good thing is, with it going on the metal, if you get too far out, you can always unglue these. They're real easily pulled off of that metal. Just keep going around. That's the trick, is keeping it rounded. And when we do this next layer, we're going to come in just a tad on, make it just a little bit shorter. So these pieces right here may be a good 4 inches or more. And just making sure that we come in a little bit with these on our length. So that one right there, I know that if I go ahead and cut these, that's going to be just right for 3 pieces. And it moves pretty swiftly whenever you do your next layer, because you kind of know now you got your base built and you can come in a little bit. And you can even go in between the blue, and all I did was just move it up a little bit. Even if you get it right there, it's not going to hurt anything. It's still within. And all these strips are the same length, so it's not going to be hard to divide the difference. I know with mine, when I pulled them and ripped them, they're all coming off the same side, so they're all going to be the same length. Now I've got the red and the blue, now the white. And once again, it's going to be just a tad bit shorter. These strips are really about 5 inches long, but because you're coming inward with them, that's going to shorten the distance. And once again, I'm going in between the red there. That's my aim. It don't have to be exact because they are primitive and we want that look. That's what we're going for. We want prim look. And once again, if your piece is just a little bit short, you can adjust it just like I did right there. You can kind of make up the difference. Just get part of it, because the center is going to cover all that and hold it firmly into place, so it's not going to go anywhere. And just keep working around, and by the time you add a little bit of glue to your next piece beside of it, takes care of it anyway. And the closer you go in, of course, the faster you seem to be able to move. Okay, on this one, I'm going to make a navy blue center. So I'm just taking my hockey puck here, my black magic marker, and make me a circle, and I cut that out. Just taking my needle and thread and put me a running stitch in there so we can put our polyfill in the center. It only takes a second to go through there, especially if you have the thread doubled up. It just gives it strength when you're pulling on it. I'm notorious for doing these with a single strand of thread and a needle and just trying to get it closed up, because I know I'm going to glue it, and I kind of need to bear in mind that, you know, these things do get age on them, and somebody else might have them long after I'm gone. Sometimes I just get in a hurry. All right, now we've got this, and we can pull up, and I always have my other one with a knot, and it makes it easier for me to tie these once I get it pulled up. Now, I do not gather these up tight. I kind of leave them out like this because I really want them to have a nice round center. And I just put enough polyfill in there for that. And actually, I know it's a shortcut, but a lot of times I do wait until I've got it filled before I tie it. But maybe I will try something different. I never tie it beforehand, so let me try that and then fill it and see if that helps me any. Just so difficult to do it with these fingernails. I'm not used to having nails. Okay, now on this center, I've got my puff made for the center. And I'm going to use this burlap on this particular one. So I'm going to make this really, really narrow one. And I'm going to just take me a strand out where I can cut it. And that'll give me plenty that I can harness in the center here. I'll leave my fray out here. I'm going to put me enough glue in this center just to put this down in that center right there. And I love it just like that. It looks absolutely gorgeous just like that. Now I don't have much glue in there because I want to be able to go around with this. Now the trick here is it makes it more difficult, but it does give it some leniency putting it under that flower. Let me just try. Alright, so let me start down here. Edge, you can see my green string, edge of that burlap there. And if you have to, you can, move your burlap by like pushing on it, want it to go around. See how I'm just kind of maneuvering real slow. You don't got to be in no hurry. Gathering of the burlap just helps it, and it looks better. Pushing it under there. I do always end up having plenty of this glue on my fingernails. And then see, like those are a little long. That's okay, because I'll just put my stick here. Now that I've got this part done, kind of fluff it out a little bit. Now, that's looking really good. You can also, like with cinnamon, and not put any grunge on it because I really like the color of it. And it only takes a spot of that cinnamon. The holes in this are so big, I need to change it out. And it smells wonderful. And that's all it takes. Now, that just looks really good in person. I don't know how well you can see on the video, but it looks great. So the next step is we can put our back on it. So we'll get our stick, and of course you can use a square of fabric if you like. That's what I always do. Here is my stick. I'm just using my grapevine stick, and again I use my painter's tape. Now again, I do the same thing. Make sure where I want that stick, I want it to fall in between those two petals there. Go ahead and I get that part, and then I will put my glue out here on this metal. I've already pre-sanded it so that way it's good and sticks. Then I put that tape over top right with that glue, and this won't ever come loose. I hang pictures the same way. This is my method, and if you want to make sure that don't ever come loose, ever get flimsy or weak, it's the best way to do it. It does not have to be round. I did a square one on the last one. I will just take and glue of that stem so it works like a guard in keeping that from sliding up and coming out the top or something. And it just looks so nice and professionally done, just really clean and spiffy. Let it good and dry before you pull on it. That way you make sure it holds that weight. Let that dry. Now let's work on our tag. For this tag, I'm actually going to use some craft paper. I think it would look just awesome. Use my crimping shears so that way it has a pretty look to it. I don't know how long I'm going to make it, but I'm going to go ahead and crumble it up in my hand. Gives it that old look. Softens that paper up real good. And now I can put something neat. Most likely I'll put Prim USA. That'd be super cute on there. Now I went ahead and I got my Prim stamped on there. I did the back side. I also discovered that my R is written upside down on my stamps. That's why when I pick it up right, it's doing it backwards because I wrote it upside down. So it is my fault. Alright, I'm going to take a piece of jute twine and just put it on my tag so I can add it to my flower. Pin it there. That way I can move it. So I think the pin would be better, a safety pin. I mean, you could glue it, but it's not going to dangle loose. And that might be troublesome if you really don't want it to be messed up. And my tie don't want to stay tight, so I'm going to put a little glue on there. This is the jute twine is real stiff. It's not doing as well. There we go. Won't have no future problems with that. I'm sure you will enjoy making one of those. That looks really cute. And as I said, it don't matter. It's not coming loose. It'll be on there for a very, very long time. And you can always pin that tag further down here. It's really a personal preference, and I may move it myself. A red, white, and blue do-it-yourself primitive flowers with our fabric ribbon. I'm always so proud of how beautiful these flowers turn out. For a patriotic or primitive DIYs, try these out. You can find the playlist in the description box down below. Be sure to share with someone who enjoys crafts like this, like, and comment. Till the next DIY, this is Elizabeth. I'll be crafting you.